It's Johnny Venezia with RotoWire. We're talking 4 players that I think are a bit overpriced in 2025. Let's start with Brock Bowers. Tight end superstar, breakout as a rookie last year. Currently the tight end 1, ADP 17.5. I mean, this kid went nuts last year. 112 catches, 1,194 yards, 5 scores. It's clearly the #1 passing option again for Las Vegas. Now they have Geno Smith coming over to run point for the offense. And by the way, this is not a list that is a bust by any chance. There's no busts here that I'm projecting. It's just I think they're a little bit overpriced. You're looking at taking Brock Bowers in the middle of the 2nd round. Not really a big believer in taking tight ends that early. Maybe like during the Travis Kelce highlight eras where every year was 100 catches. That was the only thing that I would even consider. But for Brock Bowers, I definitely could see some coming back down to earth reality crash for him. It's a high price tag. And in that range, you're looking at other players like Josh Jacobs, Drake London, AJ Brown in that range that I would actually prefer a little bit more. I'm not saying Brock Bowers won't have another good year. I just think expecting him to repeat what he did, it's not that reasonable. And I think for the price tag, you would have to be paying for that. You should be expecting him to repeat. And I just don't know if that's necessarily going to happen. And you have other guys that are going to fill out better positions like a running back or a wide receiver in that range. So definitely we'll be looking elsewhere because Brock Bowers, for my money, is a little bit too expensive in that range. Next up, we're going to go with T. Hilly. Tyreek Hill, the Cheetah, wide receiver 12, 28 ADP, 81 catches, 959 yards, 6 tutties last year. Very disappointing because a lot of people were drafting him in the middle of the 1st round. Thought he was going to follow up an offensive player of the year type of performance that he had 2 seasons ago. Lowest amount of targets, 123 since 2019. And that was only because he played 12 games that year. Definitely was not efficient. Really didn't have that many big play performances that we're accustomed to seeing from the Cheetah. But even more so, there's a lot of concern going on amidst this Miami Dolphins organization. Tyreek Hill came out, was saying he really wasn't sure 100% what he was supposed to be doing in that offense last year. A lot of contradictory statements with him and Mike McDaniels, and it just doesn't seem like a very good situation right now. And this is not to say Tyreek Hill can't have a great year, that he's not talented. He's ultra talented. It's just I get very concerned when you're looking at Hill and you're having to take a 2nd, maybe 3rd round pick on him, and he doesn't even necessarily know what he's doing in that offense. It's a chaotic situation in Miami right now, and I'm looking to avoid pretty much every Dolphin. And it's weird because you saw what happened a couple years ago. Miami's offense was like a well-oiled machine, a lot of fantasy producers, but now there's a fly in the ointment. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Mike McDaniel was the first coach fired this year. So I'm staying away from that situation. Maybe Devon Achane is somebody I would consider. But even still, you know, Bucky Irving in that price range, which is like the end of the 1st, very early 2nd. I'd rather go with the Bucky Irving experience than Devon Achane because of the offensive cluster situation that's going on over there. If you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Right now, RotoWire is going to give you 15% off of any product at RotoWire.com. That includes our fantasy football rankings, our draft kit, and access to our experts on Sunday mornings for those tough start-sit decisions. Use code YouTube15 at checkout. Moving on down the list here, let's go with Garrett Wilson. Again, this is not a bust list. I really like Garrett Wilson. 1,000 yards, 3 straight seasons, especially dealing with this just crazy situations at quarterback in his first 3 years. But Garrett Wilson, like Tyreek Hill, has slid a little bit down the pre-draft rankings because of external situations going on. Last year, he was a middle of the 2nd round pick. Now he's being a little bit more towards the early 3rd. Garrett Wilson's wide receiver 14, ADP 33. 101 catches, 1,104 yards, 7 tutties last year. Very impressive. Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson were able to get some volume together, and ultimately it led to a good season for Wilson from a fantasy perspective. 2024, it's probably going to be a little bit different how 2025 is going to shake out. I love Justin Fields. I really do, but I think in terms of providing consistent week-to-week production for a wide receiver one is not something I would rely on. Yeah, he was able to perform some pretty good starts with DJ Moore a couple years ago, and that really led to Moore having some big performances. But you're drafting a player like Garrett Wilson this early because you're every week relying on him to give you the high floor, but also have the ability to put up a big ceiling. And I think it could be a roller coaster ride with Justin Fields, but we know it's a little bit geared towards the run with him. It's risky. I think Wilson will still be very good this year and have a good overall season output, but I just don't know if you're going to be able to get that high floor every week that you would. So that's definitely a risky wide receiver too for Garrett Wilson this year. I think there's other situations like I'd possibly even rather go with a T. Higgins maybe, who's also in that range. So would definitely be looking at other options before I go with Garrett Wilson. Jackson Smith and Jigba is somebody that I would gravitate towards over Wilson. Similar situations, but I think Smith and Jigba is probably a little bit safer than Wilson on a week-to-week basis. Last but not least, Kyren Williams. I am a big Kyren Williams guy. Preseason last year, he was one of my bets. Dark horses for Offensive Player of the Year, player to lead the league in rushing yards, rushing touchdowns. He had a good year for fantasy purposes. The RB12 this year, ADP 26. He had 316 carries, which is a ton. 1,299 yards, 14 touchdowns. Volume is king in fantasy. It doesn't matter how you get there. You do not get style points. It's not about efficiency. So in terms of pure volume and numbers, Kyren had a big year. The 4.1 yards per carry is a little bit concerning. The volume has to keep up with him. That as well as the health. If that happens, then he should pay off his late second round draft price that he's currently got right now. But the problem is we see regression to the mean a lot of times. Over 300 carries the year before, it's very hard to sustain that level of production efficiency regardless. So that's where I get a little bit concerned with Kyren Williams for this draft price. I could definitely see that regression hit. So that's why I'm a little bit weary of paying this late second, early third round ADP on him. But ultimately, I do think if he stays healthy, there's a good chance that he could come somewhere close to it. I'd also keep an eye on Matthew Stafford picking up a back injury. We don't know what that's going to look like. And if he's missing time in 2025, that's going to impact the entire Rams offense. And then Kyren Williams would be forced to deal with 8-man boxes for an extended period of time. So definitely got my guard up with Kyren Williams this year. Again, not a bust, but somebody that I'd be very careful about drafting at his current ADP.